Do you think Bitcoin will be disruptive in that way? I mean, now it's a speculative currency. Will it be something that will be what normal consumers will use and will disrupt the banking industry?
Now, my opinion of Bitcoin is that, I think Bitcoin is probably a good thing, but it's essentially, its main thing will be, I mean, this will probably get quoted here and there, but I think it's primarily going to be a means of doing illegal transactions.
Bitcoin, we watch it very carefully. I would not say I'm a fan of Bitcoins. I'm always also as curious as you are. And I don't think I'm expert on that. I don't pretend I know. There's one thing that I want to share with all of you one day when you do business or do whatever. If you don't know, it's not shameful. But if you don't know, but you pretend you know, it is very shameful. I don't know about Bitcoin.
Hi. I'm Shampo, retired ex-banker from Singapore. Welcome to my Bitcoin primer for the layman. If you are not very clear on what Bitcoin is, and how it works, you are in good company. Elon Musk and Jack Ma of course understand the technical part of Bitcoin. I think they just are not too sure of what value Bitcoin brings to society. Bitcoin first appeared in 2009, but it remains an enigma for many people. This is a boring explainer, without the hypes and animated analogies. But if you want clarity, you have come to the right place. I will show how Bitcoin works and the basic underlying technicalities. Some perspectives are presented so you can form your opinion whether Bitcoin is money and whether it will replace central bank money. The term Bitcoin is used here interchangeably for both the system and the virtual token. This primer is split into 4 parts. The links to the parts are in the YouTube description box below. Part 1 explains what is Bitcoin and how it works. Part 2 covers how cryptology works in Bitcoin and mining. Part 3 takes a look at some major issues of Bitcoin. Part 4 reveals the 9 fallacies of Bitcoin. A caveat before we start. This is not an investment advisory. This primer inclines to the negative, but that in no way suggests that one cannot make money in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. The adage that investment is all about timing holds true. Is Bitcoin money? History of money is terribly boring. Here's a quickie gist of it. People started with bartering, a peer-to-peer exchange of goods. My roasted baby dinosaur drumstick for your bag of fresh strawberries. Problem of barter is the double coincidence of wants. It happens only when two parties have what the other needs. So a medium of exchange is used. From seashells to beads and whatever. Then precious metals were used because of their desirability, intrinsic value and scarcity. It had the problem of divisibility that makes settlement of transactions difficult. The Romans solved this with minted coins. Then came the first paper money. Did you know it was the Chinese who first came up with this idea in the Song dynasty? The jiazi was fully backed by copper lens. Pretty soon we had the gold standard. Paper money backed by gold. Since 1973 when gold standard was totally abandoned, we have fiat currency. Paper money backed by nothing. The crazy thing is, anything can be money, so long as everybody accepts it. Economists tell us that to be considered as money, that medium must have 3 functions. 1. It is a unit of account. 2. It is a store of value. 3. It is a universal medium of exchange. How does Bitcoin score? First, a unit of account means goods and services are priced in the medium. Nobody is pricing their products or services in Bitcoins. They cannot, because nobody knows what the price is in Bitcoin. The companies of Elon Musk and Sir Richard Branson, and a host of others, accept payment in Bitcoins. But that is not the same as pricing their products in Bitcoins. Second, a store of value means wealth can be parked in the medium and over time, purchasing power remains relatively the same. You put your cash in a fixed dollar deposit, and after a year you liquidate it, you still have the same amount of dollar. The purchasing power is of course subject to depreciation. But with Bitcoin, its high volatility makes it a poor store of value. Third, as for medium of exchange, Bitcoin is hardly used in the marketplace of goods and services. Let's forget about the economists. Instead, try to get a perspective of Bitcoin in the context of what we know of money in modern times. Universal medium of exchange. Basically, money is the medium used to exchange goods and services in a country. It is a matter of how universal is the use. If everyone in a country uses seashells to exchange goods and services, then that is money to them. Take for example, at a carnival. Coupons are purchased to get in, and used to buy stuff and play games. The coupons cannot be used outside of the carnival grounds. Are these money, or simply coupons? Here's another example. In a certain remote area in Kenya, there is no banking services. But there is telecommunication services. Many people have cell phones. They purchase prepaid cell phone talk time credits, or load, from the telco companies, whose apps allow users to transfer balances to each other. Over time, the people transact with each other, using their mobile loads. They purchase goods and pay by transferring the equivalent amount in mobile loads. They transfer mobile loads to each other instead of taking a long ride to hand over cash. Outside of their community, they cannot use it. Is that money, or simply still mobile loads? Similarly, people can use bitcoins to buy stuff. Should it be considered money? The point here is, it is only used within the Bitcoin community. Currency. It is the money used in a specific country. Example, US dollars and Singapore dollars are currencies of US and Singapore respectively, measured in dollars and cents. Sterling is the currency used in United Kingdom measured in pounds, shillings and pence. Bitcoin can be used in various places, but it is not official to any country. Its monetary value is represented in BTC and Satoshi. 1 BTC equals 100 million Satoshi. Notes and coins. These are the physical tokens issued by a government. They form part of the country's currency. Notes and coins are guaranteed by the government. The Singapore dollar is the only notes in the world that are still backed by gold. Every physical dollar is backed by 0.290299 grams of gold. Some companies have come up with physical bitcoins. There is the casasious coins, and coins that can be purchased at ATM-like dispensers. But these are not coins that can be used to purchase stuff. These coins carry a QR code, which users scan in order to transfer the Bitcoin values to themselves. They are basically novelties. Digital currency. These are deposits in banks, which are recorded in accounts in the computerized systems of banks. They are digital records, and money can be moved by transfers from one account to another, without withdrawing any physical cash. Thus the term digital currency. There are some stored value cards used for specific purposes, such as train fares. These are also digital currency. Digital currency is money you have that exists only in some digital record in your name. Fiat money. Previously, under the gold system, currencies issued by a government were backed by gold. Today, currencies are no longer backed by gold. One simply relies on the faith of the government of the country. This is known as fiat currency, one whose value is backed by nothing. Central bank currency. The currency in a country is controlled by its central bank. The aggregate currency comprises of three parts. 1. Notes and coins issued by the central bank. 2. Digital currency created by the central bank in two ways. A. When it acts as a lender of last resort. B. When it purchases securities in its open market operations. In these operations, the reserve accounts that banks maintain with the central bank are simply credited. Thus money is released into the banking system. 3. Fractional banking. When a bank receives deposit money from a customer, it has to retain a certain percentage in its reserve account at the central bank, and the balance can be lent out. By this process of lending money from deposits, banks create additional money in the system. This multiplier effect is called fractional banking. A substantial proportion of money supply in a country is from fractional banking. All these are fiat money. What supports the value of these money is basically the economic strength of the country. In the case of Bitcoin, there is no government guarantee, no economy behind it. What then supports its value? Bitcoin players say it is backed by its technology. Legal tender. This is the form of money that the courts of a country will recognize as satisfactory to extinguish a debt. In each country, its currency is the legislated legal tender. Thus in Singapore, People can use Sing dollar notes and coins, or Sing dollar digital currency, to pay off debts or purchase stuff, and the vendor and creditor must accept it in settlement. A creditor can legally refuse payment in the form of cryptocurrencies, or other foreign currency, because these are not legal tender in Singapore. Cryptocurrency. It is a pseudo-digital money, transacted within a public network system that uses cryptography technology. So is Bitcoin money? I know what the answer of governments and economists is. What is yours? Basic Bitcoin ecosystem. Let us now take a look at the Bitcoin system at a very basic level. We leave out all the heavy back-end telecommunication network infrastructure. Nobody owns the Bitcoin system. The mysterious developer Satoshi Nakamoto intended it to be open-sourced. It went online in 2009. Satoshi retired from Bitcoin in 2011 and vanished. Lead development was handed over to Gavin Anderson, who helped found Bitcoin Foundation, the organization tasked to drive the future of Bitcoin on a consensus basis. Gavin left in 2016. In a basic centralized network system there is the server and the various clients. Data is processed and stored in the server. Transactions are sent through the clients to the server. Information flows between server and clients over a backbone network. Bitcoin operates on a decentralized basis. Instead of a central server, there are thousands of servers all over the world. The Bitcoin protocol is open-sourced and called Bitcoin Core. The codes are freely available for download. Open source allows other vendors to develop apps on the client side that work with Bitcoin Core. These are the wallet developers, brokers, Bitcoin exchanges, custodian service providers, and fintech services. Bitcoin clients are end-user software that facilitate private key generation and security, payment sending on behalf of a private key. From your mobile or laptop, you access Bitcoin through these service providers, which are the Bitcoin clients. A Bitcoin node is any device connected to the network that performs any or all of these functions. 1. Network routing. 2. Full blockchain. 3. Mining. 4. Wallet. To participate, all nodes must have the network routing functionality. A full node is one that has all four functionalities. Full nodes are servers where all transactions and the updated complete blockchain are kept. Full nodes verify all transactions. They work independently, thus if one server is down, it does not impact Bitcoin. Transactions and new blocks are broadcast and propagated to the entire full nodes in the network for discovery. Each node is peered to several other nodes, and this connectivity allows the data propagation to work. The connection is not restrained by physical localities. At the moment there are more than 10,000 full nodes. To propagate to the entire network takes several seconds. This is called the network relay time. Payer and payee. The payer, or transferer, sends bitcoins to a payee, or transferee, or recipient. Both access the system using their cell phone or laptop via Bitcoin Wallet, which is the app where their private keys are kept. Service providers. These are online businesses which allow Bitcoin users who do not use Bitcoin apps on their own device. These websites provide a platform that enable users to access the system. Users' wallets are stored with these providers. Cryptocurrency exchanges and brokers. These are independent online businesses that allows users to buy and sell various cryptocurrencies. It is not part of the Bitcoin protocol. They also provide users access to a lot of information on Bitcoin database. Miners. All miners are full nodes. But not all full nodes are necessarily miners. Miners are profit-driven enterprises or individuals. They use their own resources to mine for new bitcoins. Mining is the process of verifying transactions and packing them into blocks to be added into the blockchain. Banks. Fiat currencies flow from banks into crypto exchanges for bitcoins, and users cash out bitcoins via their banks. There may be other mechanisms, like via credit cards or some fintechs. But the last mile is still the banks, unless you purchase the coins from a Bitcoin ATM with cash. Just another couple of points to round up the ecosystem description. There are other servers called lightweight nodes which only hold a small subset of the blockchain. They do not hold any transactions or the full public blockchain. They perform transaction verification using a different method called simplified payment verification, or SPV. Bitcoin network is a flat architecture topography running on a peer-to-peer protocol. There are other extended networks such as those used by miners and in mining pools. Some miners are not full nodes. They belong to mining pools and access the data of the master miner in their pool. Let's now take a peek at a full process cycle. An input to Bitcoin is a transaction. There are new types of transactions that may be added in the future. We will just focus on payment transactions. Imagine Alice wants to send 1 Bitcoin to Bob. Both Alice and Bob need to have a Bitcoin wallet. Alice needs to be in possession of Bitcoins on hand to be able sent to Bob. She either has received from others previously, and if not, then she has to purchase it from a crypto exchange or broker. She pays by a bank transfer for the purchase of the Bitcoins. Alice now needs to access the system. She may have direct access because she has downloaded and installed Bitcoin Wallet on her laptop. Or she may be using a service provider, in which case she can use her mobile app to access the online platform. Alice then fills up a payment transaction and clicks send. The transaction is picked up by a full node. It verifies the transaction to make sure Alice really has the Bitcoins and that the particular Bitcoin has not been spent elsewhere. This is to prevent the problem of double spend. The node then propagates the transaction to other nodes which also independently verifies the transaction. Soon all full nodes have the same transaction. The full nodes place the transaction in a memory pool, mempool in short, which is sort of a temporary folder in their own server. Basically, this transaction of Alice now rests in thousands of servers all over the world. Miners are continuously seeking out these transactions in the mempool in a process called mining. In time, Alice's transaction is picked up by miners. Once a certain number of transactions are in a batch, miners will pack it in a block. That done, miners will try to solve a mathematical puzzle using high-powered algorithm. The first miner to solve the puzzle submits his block to the network. This candidate block is propagated to the network. Full nodes validate the block. If the block passes validation tests, the full nodes accept it. Once the block is approved by consensus, the winning miner is compensated with some new Bitcoins. All full nodes then link the newly approved block to the prior block, that is, the parent block, in their server. Bitcoin blocks are linked all the way to the original first block, which is known as the Genesis block. The complete blockchain is known as the ledger. Thus the system of recording is known as a blockchain technology. The thousands of full nodes all over the world thus maintain the same public blockchain in their server. If one site is down, it does not affect the Bitcoin network. When the transaction sent by Alice has been incorporated into the approved block, the payment is confirmed. Bob will be able to see the receipt in the system. If Bob wants to cash it out, he goes to a crypto exchange or broker to sell it and takes the proceeds in a transfer to his bank account. Let's now try to understand transactions. What are TXO and UTXO? A payment is called an outward transaction. The acronym is TXO. If the recipient of a TXO has not yet spent the Bitcoins received, it is known as an unspent TXO. The acronym is UTXO. Whatever Bitcoins a person has is represented by the sum of all the UTXO that he has in the system. To make a payment, you must have the necessary UTXO. To obtain these UTXOs, you either get paid by someone else, or you purchase Bitcoins from crypto brokers or at the exchange. Comparison of cash to Bitcoins. The cash that you have in your real wallet is in various denominations, such as notes of $100, $50, $10, $2, etc. In your Bitcoin wallet, instead of currency notes, you have UTXOs. But unlike currency notes, each UTXO can be in any values, depending on what you had been paid for. For example, you could have one UTXO of BTC 53.7, and another UTXO of BTC 12.5. In a cash payment, you can use any mix of the currency notes of different denominations. You may have a combination of notes for the exact payment, or if not possible, you will be given a relevant change. Similarly, when paying in Bitcoins, you can use any combination of UTXOs that you have. In Bitcoins, it is very unlikely that you will have the exact amount of BTC in your UTXOs. Bitcoin transaction allows you to request for the relevant change. Example of an outward transaction. Alice has a total of 130 Bitcoins and 3 UTXOs of BTC 20, 30 and 80. She purchases a pen for BTC 50. She can use her UTXOs in two ways. 1. use UTXO of BTC80 and request for a return of BTC30. In this case, the system will split the UTXO and send a TXO of BTC50 to the payee, and a TXO of BTC30 change back to Alice. 2. Use the two UTXOs of BTC20 and 30. In which case the system will merge the two UTXOs and send one TXO of BTC50 to the payee. In other words, the UTXO denominations are constantly splitting or merging in the system as they circulate. The data in a TXO. There are three basis types of data in a transaction. 1. The payee address, which is a code, the payment amount, and the refund amount. 2. The security data, that is the digital signature and the payer public key. 3. The input data. This is the specific UTXO that the payer is using to make the payment. UTXO input impacts the size of the transaction. The more the number of UTXOs used, the bigger the size of the transaction, which increases the transaction fee. The average size of a transaction in 2020 is 380 bytes. Transaction fees. The amount of the transaction fees are not indicated in the transaction. The fee is calculated from the aggregate UTXOs used, less the payment and the refund amount. The balance is the transaction fee. Thus payer first determines what fee amount he is offering, then computes the refund amount to request. Fees are voluntary. But in reality, a transaction with zero fee is unlikely to get picked up by miners. The wallet platform will have a dynamic fee recommendation, but the payer is free to determine for himself. To ensure the payment can be picked up by miners and get confirmed, the payer will offer an adequate fee. Transaction fees are part of a miner's compensation. The miner who wins the successful block gets to keep the transaction fees. Each block is constrained by a size of 1 megabyte. Miners can only put a certain number of transactions per block. Thus they are profit motivated to pick up transactions that have higher fees in relation to the size. For this, they look at the rate per byte rather than the quantum of the fee of the transaction. For example, if the fee for a transaction was 33,333 satoshis, and the exchange rate was 45,000 US dollars, then the fee was 15 US dollars. If the transaction size was 380 bytes, then the fee rate was $0.03947 per byte. Bitcoin dust. With Bitcoins and UTXO splitting, there arises the problem of Bitcoin dust. The UTXO may end up in tiny fractions where its value is less than the transaction fee. This makes them practically worthless since to spend it, one needs to pay out more in transaction fees. These low UTXOs are called Bitcoin dust. With high volatility, Bitcoin dust may occur more than one realize. For example, at today's high rate of 50,000 US dollars, a tiny fractional UTXO may still have a high valuation. Should the rate drop to US 10,000, the tiny UTXO may well become dust. We now look at what blockchain is all about. A good way to introduce the idea of blockchain is to look at common law land titles. A real estate property may change hands many times over the years. It may also have encumbrances, such as mortgages and caveats. Proof of ownership is not just the sales and purchase agreement between buyer and seller. A good title encompasses all the legal documents, all the way back up to the original owner. These would include prior S&P agreements of all prior transfers, mortgage contracts, notice of caveats, deeds of release, powers of attorney, etc. The documents form a chain of ownership from the original owner all the way down to last buyer. Any document missing or corrupted renders the title defective. It's complicated, and that is why we need expensive conveyancing lawyers to study the land titles to make sure they are perfect. These documents can be tracked backwards, but not forward. Now let's take a look at the blockchain. Miners seek output transactions in the mempool and pack them in a block. Each block is 1 megabyte in size and contains an average of 2,759 transactions. Miners then perform a function by trial and error to solve a mathematical problem. In Part 2, we will see how cryptography technology is used to secure the data, and what the mathematical puzzle is all about. When a miner has solved the problem, he submits his block to the network for discovery. There are about 10,000 full nodes in the Bitcoin network. These full nodes validate the new block. If it passes all the tests, the full nodes accept the new block by linking it to the blockchain in their server. Once this new block has been accepted, all other miners cease work on their block. All miners then proceed to work on the next block. On average, one new block is created every 10 minutes. Each new block is linked to its parent block, which is the one preceding it. The link is traceable both forward and backwards. The first block was created by Satoshi Nakamoto on January 2009. This first block is known as the Genesis block. Satoshi gave himself the first Bitcoin worth 50 BTC to kick off the system. That was the first Bitcoin ever mined. Miners that submit a successful block is given a reward for his effort. The reward is a new Bitcoin mined. All new Bitcoins mined form the coin base. In the beginning, the reward for miners was at the rate of 50 Bitcoins for each new block. Thus with each new block, the coin base was increased by 50. This reward rate is halved every 4 years. Let's suppose Nakamoto now transfers his 50 BTC to two friends split 20 and 30. These are the only two transactions in Block 2. A new coin is mined by the miner. Block 2 is then linked to Genesis block. Nakamoto's friend sends his 30 BTC to Bob. The miner of Block 2 also pays Bob 50 BTC for his services. These two Bitcoins are aggregated into Block 3. Another 50 BTC is mined and the new block is linked to Block 2. Bob now has 2 UTXO of BTC 30 and 50. He uses these 2 UTXO combined to send to Alice. Meanwhile, Alice also receives 20 BTC from another miner. The various Bitcoins are aggregated in the new block together with new BTC mined. Block 4 is added to Block 3. Alice receives 30 BTC from another miner. Bitcoins are aggregated, and newly mined Bitcoin added. Block 5 is linked to Block 4. Alice now has 3 UTXO of BTC 20, 30 and 80. She has altogether 130 BTC. This is when Alice bought the pen for BTC 50. She pays the vendor using the UTXO of 80 and asks for refund of 30. The Bitcoins are aggregated, new Bitcoin mined and Block 6 is linked to Block 5. All the blocks together form a chain, giving the technology the term blockchain. The blocks can be traced all the way back to the Genesis block. The position of a block in the blockchain is known as its height. Thus block number 300 has a height of 300. Currently, the height is about 670,000. Each Bitcoin can be traced back all the way to the coin base. The Bitcoins may be merged, or split. They are connected in a thread line fashion, splitting and merging all the time. Each string is a tree-like structure called the Merkle tree. The blockchain can be viewed as a massive collection of Merkle trees of TXOs. With one new block created about every 10 minutes, the complexity of the tree structure over time is astounding. But this is what computers are good at. Let's take a step back and see what this Merkle tree design in Bitcoin blockchain means. Currency notes and bank digital currency just circulate from hand to hand and cannot be traced. And in the common law land titles, if any of the legal documents are missing or forged, you will not know it. In comparison, for Bitcoin, the history of each Bitcoin is intact and traceable all the way to the coin base. A Bitcoin in a block cannot be hacked or corrupted, because they are secured by cryptography technology. The thousands of nodes all over the world maintain the same blockchain in their server. The Bitcoin blockchain is referred to as the Bitcoin ledger. As can be seen, it is not organized like an ordinary accounting ledger. Users will not be able to see an account in their name showing the usual debits and credits like a bank statement. What they can see are the UTXO that belong to them. At any one time, all the unspent Bitcoins, or UTXOs, in the system, lie at the end of each string in the Merkle tree. Using the Bitcoin wallet, users can see their UTXO in the system. From accounting point of view, every transaction, or TXO, impacts the status of both the payer and the payee. For example, Block 4 holds the transaction of the payment of BTC 80 by Bob to Alice. Hence Bob's holdings of Bitcoins is decreased by BTC 80 whilst Alice holdings increased by BTC 80. It is similar to the double entry in accounting and the ledger is always balanced. What is a blockchain fork? Why it happens, and why it is important to understand. When a miner propagates his proof of work to the network, it takes some time for the transmission to go around the world, and for tens of thousands of full nodes to receive it. It takes several seconds for all nodes to receive a transmission. This is known as the router relay time. This means there can be a situation where, Before a new block has been propagated to all full nodes, another miner has also completed a new block and he broadcasts his block. Geographical location of the servers is not the determinant of the time a node can pick up a transmission. It is the particular network infrastructure each node is served. Thus when two miners happen to independently complete a new block within seconds of each other, different full nodes in the network will receive different block first. This presents a problem for a distributed system designed on consensus. Which of the two new blocks is supposed to be accepted? It leads to a situation known as blockchain forking. Imagine the network is currently working on public blockchain at height 600. A miner completes block X and broadcasts it to the network. Some of the full nodes pick up the transmission and validate the block, accept it and add it to the blockchain as block 601 in their servers. Let's call these nodes group X. A few seconds later, another miner completes his block and he too quickly broadcasts it. Let's call this block Y. Other nodes picked up block Y first, validate and accept it as correct. They add this as block 601 to their blockchain in their servers. Let's call this group Y. After they have updated their blockchain, group X then receives block Y, and group Y then receives block X. Both groups will retain the second block that they received as orphan blocks. They are not linked to the blockchain. What just happened is the blockchain has forked into two different chains. This is a problem because the transactions picked by miners to aggregate into their block are not necessarily the same. In this example, the transactions in block X and Y are not entirely the same. Blockchain forking occurs routinely once or twice a week. However, the situation will quickly resolve itself by the next block. Sometime it will take another two new blocks to resolve. Let's say the next new block Z is broadcast by a miner in group X. Suppose Z is the only new block mined. All the nodes in the network, that is, both groups X and Y, will eventually receive the transmission. They validate and accept the new block. Since the successful miner is from group X, his parent block for new block Z is block X. What this means is only the nodes in group X can link block Z to their blockchain. The nodes in group Y cannot link new block Z to their chain, because the parent block X is an orphan block. There are now two blockchains. Bitcoin protocol rules that in such a situation, the one that has done the most work wins. This is determined by the length. Group X blockchain now has a height of 602, compared to Group Y which has a height of 601. The longer chain wins. The whole network now switches to the blockchain in Group X. Having established the common public blockchain, all the nodes will dismiss their block Y. This presents a problem because miners do not all pick the same transactions. That means there are transactions in block Y, which have already been confirmed, but they are not in blocks X and Z. This is resolved by the system unconfirming those transactions. The related TXOs are returned to the payers, whose wallets will then resend the transaction. This process of returning confirmed transactions due to a blockchain fork presents double spend opportunities. Payers who have received goods for their purchase and find their TXO returned to them, they may not resend the TXO. They can then use the TXO to spend again for other purchases. Merchants take a delivery risk if they have shipped out goods only to find the funds returned. To minimize this risk, merchants wait for a few more blocks to be confirmed. Each new block succeeding the block in which their receipt was confirmed, adds one additional layer of confirmation. It is felt that 6 layers of confirmation provides a very high level of certainty, that confirmed funds will not be impacted by blockchain forking. Thus if a transaction was confirmed in say, block 601, merchants may wait till block 606, and then deliver their goods. A confirmed transaction 6 levels deep is considered very safe. By now, you should be able to answer the question what is Bitcoin? I shall define it thus. Bitcoin is an open-source payment platform that issues its eponymous cryptocurrency in a deterministic manner, and which maintains its distributed database on blockchain technology, allowing its users a peer-to-peer payment experience with the utmost privacy. Thanks for watching the video. I have a favor to ask. I need to build subscriber base in order to monetize my effort here. So if you find the video useful, please subscribe and like and share with your friends by clicking the YouTube buttons below. Thanks a lot.